Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're covering the OTS9 submachine gun, a close quarters SMG with a high fire rate and good mobility. We'll be discussing its stats, viability, and later on provide optimal builds for it. The OTS9 is a moderate to low damage weapon, dealing a base damage of 27 to 15, with 4 to 7 shots to kill. This is average for a close range SMG. Head and chest shots deal 20% more damage, and arm shots deal 10% extra damage. However, stomach and leg shots deal 10% less damage, so it's important to hit at least one upper body shot in the first range to secure the 4-shot kill, similar to the Switchblade. It is also possible to 4-shot kill up to the second range with upper body shots. Like most SMGs, it has low penetration. Range values are also standard for a close quarters weapon, with a base 4-shot range up to 9 meters, dropping down to 5 shots to kill up to 18 meters, 6 up to 23 meters, and anything beyond that will be 7 shots to kill. Fire rate is quite high at 857 RPM. This is identical to the MX9 and the Type 25, while being slightly faster than the Switchblade and the QQ9. This results in an identical time to kill to the MX9 at 210 milliseconds to 420 milliseconds. Just like the newer weapons that have been added, the OTS9 is cursed with a bullet velocity variable, being at 550 meters per second. This is a little faster than the ASVAL and KSP45, which shouldn't affect your hit registration much within the gun's effective ranges, although it can be a hindrance when going for long shots. Recoil is arguably the easiest to control out of all the close quarters SMGs, as the pattern is mostly vertical with minimal horizontal kick, so you can easily control it just by pulling down. Bullet spread accuracy is poor, having an in-game score of 31 or 4.03 on the 11-point scale, which is slightly worse than a Switchblade and a QQ9. However, the initial spread is quite a bit better at 17 or 7.18 on the 11-point scale, which is good for a close quarters weapon, so firing in controlled bursts should allow it to take mid-range gunfights. The base capacity is only 20 rounds, which is puny for its fire rate, and extended mags will be necessary to make it usable. Reload time is decent compared to its peers, taking 1.2 seconds to complete and 1.27 seconds from empty. Weapon swapping speeds are quite average for SMGs, with the race time taking 367 milliseconds, while the drop time takes 283 milliseconds, so swapping to your secondary shouldn't be a problem. ADS time is expected for a close quarters SMG at 200 milliseconds, while sprint to fire time is very fast, even for SMG standards at 100 milliseconds, which is identical to the QQ9. Mobility is between the QQ9 and the Switchblade, moving at 4.96 meters per second when walking and 6.45 meters per second when sprinting. The same goes for its strafing speed, which is at 3.87 meters per second. This, of course, can be boosted further with no penalty thanks to its Black Ops attachments. You might have noticed we have been comparing the OTS9 to the Switchblade and the QQ9 a lot. This is because it shares very similar performance, especially in terms of time to kill, range, mobility, and handling, with the main difference being that the OT9 has a much easier recoil at a cost of bullet velocity. Therefore, it should be played in an identical fashion as a close quarters weapon. Now to cover the unique attachments, starting with the barrels. The 7.1-inch Liberator barrel reduces aim down sight time by 10 milliseconds, which is not really noticeable, and improves mobility slightly at the cost of a minuscule 5% vertical recoil penalty and a hefty 10% bullet spread accuracy penalty. This barrel isn't really recommended unless you truly want to dedicate yourself to close quarters, as there are better attachments for improving mobility. The VDV reinforced barrel increases damage range by 25% and bullet speed by 220 meters per second, but it really ruins mobility, so this one is not recommended either, as there are more efficient options when it comes to boosting range, like the 8.1-inch task force barrel, which increases range by 20% and bullet speed by 165 meters per second, at a cost of plus 20% to both vertical and horizontal recoil, which sounds significant, but it really isn't a problem, as the OTS already has extremely easy recoil. This barrel is arguably the best option for range boosting. The remaining barrels only have upside with no penalty, starting with the 5.8-inch Cavalry Lancer barrel, which increases vehicle damage by 88%. This is only useful in Battle Royale, as it will allow you to one-mag smaller vehicles, but it is useless in multiplayer with the exception of ground war. The 6.6-inch extended barrel increases bullet speed by 220 meters per second. This is not very useful, as the OTS bullet speed is sufficient for most of its ranges, making it a waste of an attachment slot. The 7.5-inch rifle barrel increases range by 20%. This one is viable if you really want a range boost but can't handle the recoil penalties from the task force barrel for some reason. The OTS also has quite a few magazine options. The extended mag A increases mag size by 10 but adds 0.18 seconds to the reload time. This mag is not really viable, as 30 rounds is still not enough for its fire rate. The extended mag B effectively doubles the magazine size to 40 while giving the same reload time penalty and adding 30 milliseconds to the ADS time. This is the best option, as it gives the largest magazine size and the penalty is more than manageable. The fast reload only reduces reload time by 0.24 seconds, which makes it worthless, as it doesn't address the issue being the tiny magazine size. The 25-round speed mag adds 5 rounds to the magazine and reduces reload time by 0.36 seconds at a cost of 12 milliseconds to ADS time. While the penalty is negligible, this is still not a worthwhile option, as 25 rounds is still far too small for its fire rate. The fast extended mag B also improves reload time by 0.36 seconds, but also increases the magazine size to 32. However, it adds a colossal ADS time penalty of 50 milliseconds. As expected, this one is not really worth it, as it ruins ADS time and doesn't increase capacity enough. The OTS also comes with a unique no-stock attachment, which reduces ADS time by 21 milliseconds, but increases vertical and horizontal recoil by 8%, which makes it completely worthless, as you can get more ADS time reduction with no penalty from the Russell grip tape. Now that we have covered the attachments, we can talk about builds. For multiplayer, start with the agency suppressor for the free sound suppression and recoil reduction, striker foregrip and lightweight stock for mobility, 8.1-inch task force barrel for range and bullet speed, and finally the large extended mag B for the largest magazine capacity. When it comes to performance in battle royale, this weapon actually performs quite well, as it has excellent time to kill potential at 700 milliseconds against 300 health, only barely slower than a laptop, and it can be built to have great hipfire and handling, although the time to kill is rather inconsistent as it is reliant on your ability to hit upper body shots. Start with a large extended mag B for the biggest magazine possible, red cell foregrip and marathon stock for spread fire speed, MIP laser 5mW for the improved hipfire, and finally the 5.8-inch cavalry lancer barrel to 1-mag vehicles. For mods, use long range, hipfire boost, and extended mag. The OTS9 is easily an upper tier SMG with excellent performance in close quarters, easy recoil, and great mobility thanks to its Black Ops Gunsmith system. While it does have the bullet velocity trait, it shouldn't be an issue for most of your gunfights, especially with the barrels that effectively nullify it. Just like the Switchblade and FeiXue, it will suffer in terms of damage drop-off and bullet spread accuracy, which will limit your effective range quite substantially, but if you can keep to closer ranges, you're looking at a very reliable option that can serve as a great alternative to the current meta SMGs. And that covers everything about the OTS9. What are your thoughts on the weapon? Feel free to leave us a comment, and if you find the video helpful, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Go and dock.